So, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was a concept based off of the series Attack on Titan. If somebody's listening to this who's never heard of it, it's a Japanese anime, and it's on its season 4, its final season, and it's very unique. It has a lot of symbolism in it, and but there's something that I was thinking about as I was in the shower just about an hour ago that I really wanted to talk to you about, and it's the idea of the Titans, because there's the 9 main Titans, the ones that where humans can transform into them, and then there's like all the sub Titans that are just mindless zombies, basically. And one of their abilities is that they can harden. And I was thinking about the symbolism behind what the walls represented in Attack on Titan, because the walls were actually made out of, we learned, colossal Titans. And if you think about what that is from a Reichian perspective, the psychology, the psychoanalytical perspective of Wilhelm Reich, that is a symbolic gesture of the people of paradise hardened themselves and walled themselves off, no different than, let's say, an individual would harden themselves. That's where you get tension in the body. And it's interesting that it was actual bodies that made these walls. So I think it was almost like a direct comparison for the symbolism. Real quick, I'm gonna go online, and actually I meant to look at this. The name of the 3 walls. Oh, perfect. Yeah, because I went. It was Wall Maria, Wall Rose, and Wall Cena. But anyway, the 3, as we know, that the number 3 is symbolic. Why 3 walls? Why not more? Why not less? The number 3 is always symbolic, and the occult as being relating to the mother. The Earth is the 3rd planet from the sun. The 3rd major arcana is the Empress. There are 3 mother letters in the Hebrew language. So 3 always ties back into the mother. So then you have this whole possible mother metaphor of what's going on here. And of course, the lore in Attack on Titan is that the founding Titan, the original Titan, was a woman. It was Ymir. So it was like the founding mother of all Titans. And then if you look at what the Eldian race is, because the premise is the Marleyans have a certain part of the Eldian race subjugated in their respective country. And then you have another part of the Eldian race that went off to paradise and walled themselves off. And what was interesting, to take that metaphor even further about the walling off and the hardening, is that the founding Titan, within the one who inherited the founding Titan, King Fritz, he erased everyone's memories, which is just, once again, spot on as far as Reichian psychology is concerned. You wall yourself off, you harden the body through tension, and you repress memory. You repress psychological content within the body. So you have so many but what I would say synchronicities between this idea. Now, the whole point about what I'm talking about here is that in art, people will do and say things, whether it's in shows or paintings or what have you, and they may not even realize what they're saying on a subconscious level. So some of these patterns will emerge. That's one of the concepts I'm running off of here. And so you have the 3, the mother concept, the mother of the Titans, and remember in that last episode, and we're still not done. It's like we're less than halfway done with the final season, but Eren Yeager has finally infiltrated the Marleyan capital, and he's basically saying to Reiner at this point, "I'm doing this, but why did this happen to my mother?" So he's basically going to kill everyone because of what happened to his mother. There was no other reason he had. There was no other rationale that he had. So once again, you have a tie-in to this mother concept. So then, on a bigger picture, what was I looking at here? What is the Eldian race? What are the Marleyans? This, in one regard, there's many ways to look at this. In one regard, this is a person. This is the psyche of one individual. The Marleyan race is you're in a schizoid state. Like, one part of you is, the Eldian is the true force. Because if you think about it, when the first wall was broken down, You remember that was done by the Colossal Titan and the Armored Titan. If you look at it from a Reichian point of view, when a wall falls, the inner self is able to emerge. Well, everybody that went to paradise had their memories erased, everything was repressed, everything was hardened and walled off. Aaron represents the inner animus, which is all this just repressed hatred and rage. Like, look what he's doing now. Now that he's on the loose, he's just going to kill everyone. I mean, at first you thought he was the good guy. He was the protagonist. And now it's starting to look like, whoa, wait a second. I think he's actually the supervillain of this entire series. And this is the final season we're getting into now. So he's the repressed animus who's come out with a vengeance, which is what happens. I mean, Jung talked about this all the time. You can repress the true self all you want, but it will always find a way back out. But if you repress it, it will find out a way neurotically or psychotically. So in a way, this is another way of saying you've repressed this, because Aaron, he possesses the attack titan, one of the main 9 titans, and that ability is to basically initiate the attack and tell all of the sub-titans what to attack, which is one of the most dangerous abilities out of all the 9 titans. And they're already hinting at that he may have the ability to break down all of the walls, reform them back to their original colossal titan state, which would mean to say that they would unharden and they would return to an id-like state, or the true self state would no longer be repressed. But you've repressed it for so long that now it comes out with a vengeance, and you've created a psychopath. And if you recall, the whole point of why the Eldian race was even repressed to begin with was because the other races were scared to death of them, which may speak to, I mean, this whole anime, this whole show may actually speak to ancestral trauma as well, because you talk about the Titans literally talked about in the Bible, like the giants in the Bible. You find giant skeletons, unearthed from time to time, and there's no explanation for it. Like, where are these giants coming from? And then you have this show talking about like giants, roam the earth. You have David Goliath, of course, that story in the Bible. And that's all speaking to, yeah, there was a time where giants were used for war. And that's exactly what they're using in the show. And of course, it's going to be traumatizing to our species. We're gonna see this show and be like, the giants, and not know, on a conscious level, what's going on there. And I think that's part of why the show, it resonates with people so much. It's been so popular because it's operating on such a subconscious level, whether the creators of the show intended for that or not. They may be channeling their own unconscious material into this art and not realizing it all the way. We don't know. So yeah, if you look at it as the point of view of like, this is a person, and this person's been walled off for so long. And what does that do? It creates the psychopath. And the show is telling you this. And what does that tell you as a species, as a society? We've had repressed content. We've had ancestral trauma done to us. And if it keeps being repressed, and quote unquote paradise, this false paradise where you don't actually know the truth, if it continues to be repressed in the false society and the false culture and the false persona, eventually what will happen, by hook or by crook, given enough time, that true self will emerge. And I think we have a choice on how we let that emerge. And I think that show is kind of speaking to this idea. But it's coming back from the mother again. And this is like, if you're not familiar with this, it's so I would say its own little niche study. But the works of Michael Tsarion and some of the later psychologists that talked about the mother's role in the development of the superego and how much she's important. And she basically puts the superego in the children because she's primarily the repressor, and the father tends to, in this day and age, the father is he's the permissive parent. Go out and do things. Oh, if you fall and scrape your knee, it's all right. You'll get over it. But the mother is like, no, don't do anything. Stay safe. No. And of course, the mother's around the child a little bit more than the father would be, just by the very nature of feeding and bathing. All the stuff that a mother might more likely be doing. So the mother is there first, primarily, and she's kind of telling the child what the child can't do. And so naturally she puts the superego in place. At least that's what, these are what these legends are talking about here. So this whole story is talking about one person in one way and what the mother did to them. And the certain part, like King Fritz, was an aspect of the superego. He was an archetype. The negative emperor who kind of acquiesced and said, in a one way, he was trying to achieve peace. He was trying to do what was best. He saw the endless cycle of violence that was happening through the power of the Titans. And he was like, you know what, let's put an end to this. But the way he did it was unsustainable. He tried to do it by just repressing the truth as long as possible. And of course, that was eventually going to break. You can't do that. So it was like, and I think we're all faced with similar decisions in life where we have a crisis, we may not know what to do, so we do our best, and, ignorance is ignorance. We're all going to be ignorant in our own ways, in different ways. What is unsustainable, what is unnatural will inevitably fail. And King Fritz's plan failed. But he may have been an aspect of the ego, the strong ego who may have tried to do what was right. Then you have the repressive Marleyans who are repressing one, you're in a schizoid state. One part of you just hates itself, because remember, the Marleyans teach the Eldians to experience self-hate, whereas the other Eldians are just taught to forget everything. So basically, this is a schizoid person, and then it all comes out whenever, Aaron comes out and is like, I'm done. Mom, mom, mom. But it all started from mom. Why did that founding Titan do what she did? Where did she come from? And what does she symbolically represent? Because the mom is God. She is the goddess in the beginning. She controls your fate. She feeds you. She keeps you alive. She gave birth to you. This is like the doomsday weapon. If you can get women to fall, you get the society to fall. That's a lot of what Michael's been talking about lately. But this whole show, I'm probably only scratching the surface in terms of what the symbolism is here, with the three walls and the mother metaphors, and what the Marleyans are doing to the Eldians and everything. But the walls themselves literally being bodies that have hardened, and we're being hinted at the fact that they're about to unharden, and the true self is about to emerge. Sorry, all that bioenergy that's been pent up over the years, it's going to come out in a bad way. And that's exactly what happens to regular individuals that this happens to. It comes out psychotically. Hopefully neurotically, not too bad, but if you approach it in a healthy manner where everybody, seeks the truth and doesn't try and engage in the power dynamic, because I think the whole reason why all this happened was power corrupts, and having the power of the Titans was too much for one person. And maybe that speaks to what the mother, couldn't you say the same thing about the mother, having ultimate power over the child? Could that not corrupt some mothers? And then they engage in the power dynamic with their child? And then this is what causes all evil, basically. This is what causes everything to break down. Because if we engaged in what's called the dialectic, which is putting freedom on a pedestal, all being disciples of freedom, and we all looked at each other as mirrors, none of this would happen. There wouldn't be any repressed, I'm sure there's ancestral trauma, but more, it would improve, was what I'm trying to say. And maybe that ultimate power of the mother is being warned out here, and look at all the damage it does. And there's so many people, if you're even listening to me right now, I would bet 99 out of 100 of you have never even heard of this stuff. But thanks to some great researchers who came after Freud and what Michael Tessarion had worked on afterwards, it's really been blown wide open. You have to read Dragon Mother, you have to read Adultism by Michael, and it will shed light on so many mysteries of why civilizations rise and fall, and how we can do better and avoid another dark age, pretty much. I mean, as a person who was a disciple of freedom, I'd really like, and truth, disciple of freedom and truth, I'd really like to avoid another dark age. Politics be damned, economics be damned, even to a certain degree, but it's like, what really matters is consciousness. Because what happens in the outer world is a reflection of what's in our inner world. We cannot improve the world if our inner world is in complete tatters. It's impossible. We'll fail no matter what we do. So you have to get your inner world right first. So you have to be introspective. You have to look at this stuff. Otherwise, we don't have a bright future. And but works of art like this, they come out and they They make you think in a great way. I love it. Or you could just enjoy it on the mundane level because it's an amazing show on its own, just from a storyline perspective. But yeah, they're definitely working with excellent archetypes, excellent symbolism. I feel like they really know what they're doing, so definitely recommend to watch. But yeah, that's what I had to say.